Welcome to The Fresh Cut by Ganjapreneur, where we get straight to the source and interview the growers, retail associates, and other talented people on the ground that help this industry thrive. I'm Cara Wietstock, Ganjapreneur's culture editor, and your host today. Today, I'm really happy to welcome Colin Wells, who is the founder of Veterans Walk and Talk, also called VWAT for short. Colin is a veteran of the US Army Infantry, and now Colin facilitates local walks where veterans actually around the country can gather in community alongside cannabis and other healing plants to promote community and healing together. This community has also created a space for support that many veterans struggle to find after returning to civilian life. Welcome, Colin. Thank you for spending some time with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, Cara. I'm honored and grateful.
I've been following you on Instagram for a while and really inspired by the work that you do. And I've said it a lot of times in that intro, but the community you've created is pretty beautiful.
Yes, thank you. It truly is. The community is where the heart and soul of VWAT lies.
And now it's a family community because you've got your wife and baby involved too.
That's right. We have 3 boys and a girl.
Oh, I didn't know you have 3 boys as well. But
yep.
So the community started because it was just you seeking out more human beings based on your personal experience. So I'd love to start at the beginning and see what your experience was adapting back to civilian life after serving in the military. And, you know, the VA is supposed to be there to support you, and kind of what role that played in your journey.
Yes, thank you. So I certainly came into my time in service with, my own set of human problems before being compounded by my time in service. Namely, opiate addiction is something I struggled with throughout my younger years in life, through my early 20s. And feelings of inadequacy and trauma that I hadn't really unpacked. And then I went and joined the US Army Infantry at a time where we were sending a lot more troops to Afghanistan and going to try to make a big splash there so that we could, I guess, exit out of that whole situation more succinctly. And so I therefore was sent into a bit of a meat grinder as far as violence and moral injury goes with my time in Afghanistan, especially being an infantryman. So when I came out of the military, I had hurt my leg. I'd been blown up twice and hurt my head in those explosions. So when I came out of the military, I very much had kind of just like shoveled more problems on top of the problems I already had. And so when I got out, I had no real way of addressing that. The military is very bad about getting you out of service. They're really good about recruiting and convincing you to join, but there's no incentive to get out because they would rather kind of keep you in if you meet their standards. And also keep you from kind of discussing the things that you went through in service. Don't talk about these things, just let them kind of sit within you, is kind of the mentality of warfare in this country and the people that have seen warfare. And so you're very much, you're like in one day, and then you do some out processing and you're out and you're just thrown to the wolves. And I didn't have any money coming in or any kind of support system in any way getting out. I just went back to Los Angeles and tried to be a good person and found myself abusing drugs again, namely opiates and benzodiazepines. But I was also on antidepressants and blood pressure medications. So just this compounding pharmacology of ups and downs and highs and lows, so to speak. And I went and when I got out in 2012, I almost immediately sought help at the VA. And the VA in West Los Angeles, I lived at for 11 months total on the campus, really trying to do the work. I lived at the Combat Trauma Treatment Center there, and was put on methadone maintenance for my opiate addiction, Lexapro and Prazosin. Lexapro, an antidepressant. Prazosin is a blood pressure regulator, a beta blocking medicine that the VA uses to mitigate nightmares in veterans. So it basically keeps your blood pressure from spiking while you're asleep. So you calm yourself down. Flip side to that is you get up to use the bathroom, you end up hitting your face on the floor because your blood pressure drops so fast. So I tried to get help there. I didn't find it. I ended up getting in a verbal argument with one of my roommates there at the VA, and it was on a Saturday during a skeleton crew operation, as far as staff goes, and they saw fit to use that argument to put me in a padded room and pump me full of Ativan, and then put all my stuff outside and no longer let me be welcome at the VA anymore. And right then and there, I became homeless and retreated into the woods. So yeah, getting help at the VA it's a tough cookie.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like the right way to handle a mental health crisis at a mental health facility, to say the very least.
I agree. I mean, looking back, I'm very grateful for that whole experience, because making me homeless like that put me into the woods, and the woods taught me to find nature and cannabis again. So it's the path that brought me to where I am now. However, not everybody can pull themselves up from that kind of situation.
It takes real resilience. When in that journey did you come across more herbal medicines and cannabis medicine? How did that intersect?
After that incident, I went to live in the mountains and started going to dispensaries after a friend of mine brought me over. I was withdrawing. I had gone back on drugs after leaving there for a brief time, and started getting into heroin. And my friend Alex came over and offered me, he said he had like natural opium tincture. He was going to make tea for me to kind of help with my withdrawal symptoms. And so I drank that and I felt better.
Was it poppy? Sorry to interrupt.
No, it wasn't either one. It was actually ended up being CBD and THC. He just told me it was
trickster.
Opiate. Yeah. So
Good trickster.
Good trickster, right. And I was so taken aback by the power of this medicine that I started to go to dispensaries and get cannabis, and went back on the methadone maintenance, and with the help of cannabis, because I had been addicted to opiates so long throughout so many different areas of my life that I really thought that smoking cannabis and being on methadone maintenance was going to be the way I would live the rest of my life. But after cannabis, I started learning more and more about the endocannabinoid system and terpenes and, incremental dosing and dosing yourself at night before bed and all these things. I discovered that I was able to start to go down on the methadone using the cannabis. And so I started to do that. And I went down every week for a while, actively using cannabis. And it was, it went really smoothly. And I'm proud to say that was years and years ago, and I haven't looked back. So, it's just about empowering yourself to do the work and find these natural ways that help us, which it helped me a lot.
Yeah. Congratulations. That's hard work and it takes a lot of effort. Have you utilized the VA for any other services or anything since then? Or just completely gone on your own road?
I have used the VA recently for some things that have come up, namely like physical therapy and acupuncture and physical medicine referrals, things like that. But if I were to get very sick or have a mental health crisis again, it would be the last place I would go. And to that point, my beautiful partner Cookie and I just had our baby, and she's a Navy veteran as well. And we both have full health benefits through the VA, and we paid private insurance to have our baby, even though it's really hard to afford it because we were that scared to go to the VA to have a baby.
It's not
even though
an
it would have
easy
been
feat.
absolutely free.
Having
Right.
a baby is, people think it's like easy peasy, but a lot of women or a lot of birthing people don't have an easy experience. So.
Exactly. And Cookie and I are a little older, and we just wanted everything to be up and up. And what a lot of people don't realize about the VA system is that a lot of the time it's used as like training grounds for people that are going further in their medicine practice. So a lot of times you'll get like a doctor who's pretty, salty and seasoned and complacent in his ways. And then he'll be accompanied by 2 to 5 students. And the students are the ones that are really like, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's this. When you're like, they're going like, I'm dying here, I'm in pain. Can we just focus on what it is and not what it could be? So we're still very much, I don't want to say experimented on because it's not sci-fi like that. It's more just like we're used as training modules for higher learning, and that definitely needs to change.
Yeah. And I think maybe people who have state assisted healthcare go through that experience in a different way
that
as
too.
well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I, as a bud tender and someone who's just engaged with veterans about cannabis medicine for a while, a lot of veterans are concerned that they would lose VA benefits or their benefits if they tested positive for cannabis. And I'm just curious if you have any insight on that.
Yeah, 100%. I get that question all the time. It's a very common misconception that a veteran who is just collecting benefits for PTSD or a leg injury or TBI or anything like these things would be tested in the first place or would have their benefits taken if they did test positive for cannabis. The only caveat to that is if you actively are participating in a program in which you have agreed not to use cannabis, meaning a mental health program where it's not allowed, a substance abuse program where it's not allowed, and you're being tested regularly either as an inpatient or an outpatient. But I have never heard or met anyone that has lost benefits simply by being a veteran who is receiving benefits and then even being tested. They have to have a reason to test you for cannabis. The VA doesn't have just money to just throw drug tests at every veteran it wants to. It costs money to test for these things. So unless you signed on the dotted line, I will not use cannabis. And if I do, I agree to have these benefits taken away from me or this taken away from me. Or maybe you're facing, some past drug charges or any kind of felony that you're on probation for. They have to have a reason to test you. So no, as far as I know, with all the work I've done, there's no way that they can just strip you of your benefits for using cannabis. The only thing that the other caveat to that is that it's not in the best interest of some veterans who are receiving disability benefits to even admit to being healed from what they're receiving benefits for. So if cannabis were to, heal you're not, bring you to a place where the PTSD was no longer crippling you and you were able to function in society again and let's say get a job, then you went to your doctor and you said, Doc, I'm using cannabis, I'm feeling great, everything's wonderful. There is a potential where he could say, well, no longer has PTSD, and then that could go to the disability office and they could say, well, he no longer has what we're paying him for, so let's not pay him for that anymore, let's let him get a job. So there are, you know, which is a whole nother story, honestly, Cara, because if it's not in the best interest of veterans to admit they're healed, they're never going to really fully heal in the first place. So it's a whole catch-22 kind of.
And PTSD is not a linear thing to heal from.
Right.
I don't know. I can't compare my life to your life. I have diagnosed PTSD, and I don't know that I'll ever be able to say I'm A-okay. You know, right. I have really good periods of time. And
right. I'm a big opposer to saying anything like cured or healed from PTSD. Yeah. I think those are buzzwords. I think we're always healing from it. It's part of our journey. And I think if you're going to say any word, it should be, I accept my PTS. I accept that I was traumatized at one point. It brought me to the person I am now. If that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be the person I am sitting here in front of you. So therefore, it is something that defines me in a positive way. And these plant medicines that we work with are like huge in helping veterans and anybody, because, you know, just being a human being is traumatizing of itself in a lot of ways. But it, you know, to cure PTSD implies going back to the source of when you were traumatized and erasing it from ever happening to you, which we all know is impossible except in science fiction. And so going back to it, addressing it, facing it head on, and then rewiring the reaction to the source memory to a more positive, even if it's just, I'm feeling it, I need to take a step back and breathe and meditate. That's a more positive reaction to the source memory that's triggering something within you than just clamming up and having an outburst or something like that, which is often what PTSD manifests itself as.
Yeah. And a great place to step back and breathe and take a moment is in nature. And that's something you discovered in your own journeys and eventually shared with a lot of people. I mean, the recent VWAT Day really expanded the community. So how did you first start Veterans Walk and Talk? And I know you started doing that alone. You were hiking at first. So in those first few walks, how many people showed up when you posted online?
So I got a job at REI, recreational equipment. And I was a cashier there as I was on my upswing of health and started getting better. And from there, I started to get more empowered to, you know, get really good discounts on hiking gear and backpacking gear and stuff. So I started going out into the woods a lot more and hiking a lot more. And cannabis was such a big thing. Like I had this ritual, I'd, you know, smoke some cannabis by a tree, kind of hike and just enjoy myself with my dog and just be out there and taking a nature bath. And I started to get to a place where I like hiking alone. I still love hiking alone, but I was like, it'd be nice to have some friends out here doing this with, especially some veteran friends. So I just decided to get on social media one day for the first time and put out there that I was hiking, and if there were any veterans out there that wanted to hike with me, that would be cool. And when I just put that out there, no one came for a while. And then I started saying that if you come, you know, I smoke cannabis and I hike. That's kind of what I do. And then veterans really started to take notice. From there, I got a few regulars who we're a community of guys. We all bring our own cannabis. We'd share it. We'd hike. And I decided, you know, seeing the struggle of what it took for us to kind of maintain our medicine regimen through the cost of the dispensaries, I decided to reach out to some first veteran groups who weren't as receptive to what I was doing, which was surprising, cannabis veteran groups, and that was okay. And so I decided to reach out directly to some cannabis growers, the first ones being the Beard Brothers. Beard Bros Farms. I reached out to them, told them my idea of giving out cannabis for free on trails and hiking with veterans. And they right then and there, like no questions asked, were all about it, and met me and gave me so much cannabis and wax and ranch dressing and cocoa powder and just all this stuff to give out. And I just put it on Instagram. Hey, you come hike with me. Like we'll all share in this. And more veterans came, and I started, dividing that up. And from there, more cannabis companies took note to what I was doing and decided to send me cannabis to give out. And I got more and more and more and more, so I could provide more and more to the people that were coming. And then very early on, I decided that, I was going to make these hikes early. I wasn't going to make it just about coming to get cannabis. Like the community was really the thing. The cannabis was the bait to get them to hike with us. That was the idea. Obviously cannabis is healing and a medicine in its own right, but the community aspect was really what I was trying to draw people to. So I decided to go back to the same facilities that had shunned me and kicked me out and made me feel unwanted and untreatable. And I would wait outside in my car and wait for the guys to come to like the spots I knew they would smoke cigarettes at outside of the campus, because I wasn't obviously allowed in, not being a patient. And I would go over to them and reintroduce myself, and I'd say, I know this sounds crazy, but if you come out, 4 a.m. on Sunday morning, if you're 4:30 a.m., sometimes 5, if you're right here in this spot, I'll be here. Whether you're here or not, I'll be here. And if you want, I will take you up in the woods and we'll go hiking and smoke weed together. And so guys started just being right outside the VA at 4:30 in the morning. Like I would honk my horn, wave, okay, let's go. And take them up to the mountains. We'd meet the group that had already been gathering and go hiking. And I saw profound change in these men and women. And it's really truly humbling. And then from there, we started doing a lot of homeless outreach, going and I would take the same veterans who were basically homeless themselves and take them to go serve other homeless people with Shirley Raines from Beauty to the Streets down in downtown LA and Skid Row.
She's great.
Yeah, she's one of my heroes. We go way back. Her and I started out together doing a lot of this stuff. And we would help her give showers and feed and just all kinds of stuff. And she would make food for our group to take hiking, spaghetti. That woman would make food for 500 homeless people, and then also like 20 veterans for the next day. That woman is an angel sent from above, no question.
Yep.
So that was the genesis of Veterans Walk and Talk, was build the community, help yourself, and then once you're feeling like you're at a place where you've truly been helped, go help others.
It's a really beautiful thing, and it's also a bit of a angering thing watching people who have a lot and don't help, but it's the people who have the least or have seen the worst that do the most mutual aid and reach out the most to those who need it.
I agree.
But
healed people heal people.
That's the truth. So how do you choose hiking locations and outreach locations as you move forward? And are they always at 5 a.m?
Well, so as you said, VWAT Day, we launched in, we had hikes on Sunday, this past Sunday, in 14 cities. Several of those, I think 7 to 8, are going to be starting their own hikes moving forward with Veterans Walk and Talk. So the idea moving forward is to have several hikes going at any given time. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. The leader can say Thursday night at 6 p.m. we have submission forms. We're trying to be organized. We have submission forms for leadership to say, I want to hike now. And then us as board of directors will approve it. Say, okay, go ahead, hike that day. So there really is no, moving forward, there's no way to, it's up to the local leadership, really, where they feel safe and comfortable, and parking isn't, $20, and there's not 200 people walking alongside them while, 5 to 10 veterans are trying to smoke a joint and, giving them shit for it. But in the San Diego and Southern California area, where I've been doing this for 5 years, the things that I look for are ease of access, like good parking. I try to give veterans no reason to say no, because we're so good at talking ourselves out of shit, especially the morning that it comes up. So I don't want them to be like, oh, well, parking's bad, or, oh, well, I have to pay $10, or, oh, this trail is going to be crowded, or there's no dogs allowed, or anything like that. So I look for places that are, like I said, easy parking, no charging. And yeah, we usually do step off very early. And the reason is that we want to make our own way and have the trails to ourselves for at least the way up. Reason we do that is in large part because veterans who are looking to heal, who are just starting their wellness journeys, crowds are often one of the biggest triggers for us. So we want to avoid that at all costs. And also, a lot of times people are coming and trying cannabis modules and psychedelic microdoses in ways that they might not have ever tried before. And so we want to make sure that our bubble is the bubble that they're within and they're not being affected by outside sources.
That's definitely something that I was thinking about, because set is so essential to a good experience. And cannabis and everyone having their own endocannabinoid deficiencies can lead to something that works so good for me, making you feel like you're up in your head. And if that does happen in a group, how do you deal with just kind of like bringing your people back and kind of managing anxiety or stress? Or, I mean, is that what the hike is all about?
Yes. And oftentimes, if someone is having an overwhelming sensation or an overwhelming of emotion, rush of emotions, the group as itself almost, works as like, we'll all kind of be like white blood cells surrounding the problem and nurturing it. We meditate together. We pause, we'll smoke, we'll stop and smoke. Every now and then I'll get a veteran who kind of leaves mid-hike because they're overwhelmed and stuff like that, which is to be expected. Mm-hmm. They usually do come back, but the group is very good at this point. I have so many regulars that I can lean on when new people are there and having any kind of apprehension. They kind of can feel that because they might have been there at one point or know how to handle it. So it's really very much, I'm there as the kind of shepherd that says, this is the way we're going, and this is the medicine that you're taking, and here's what it does, and here's how it's homogenized, and here's what's in it, and things like that. But then once we start walking, everybody's just kind of, they fall into place and start taking care of one another. You see 70-year-old veterans with 20-year-old veterans and everything in between, just kind of nurturing one another. And that's really what takes care of it. Help yourself so you can help others. That's our way of thinking.
Nurturing is such a great word, because that is what I would hope that would happen when any veteran comes home to the States. It's pretty wonderful you're all doing it for each other, but I wish it was coming from more angles. In terms of what you're offering on the hikes, it started with cannabis. It's evolved to include psychedelics. What dictates what is being consumed, and how do people decide? Is there like a notice before a hike of what will be available, or is it just sort of something you talk about when you start on your hike that day?
So yeah, we still offer cannabis.
Yeah,
definitely still do. And the medicine outside of cannabis that we offer is on almost maintenance medication. It's not, it's so psychedelics and plant and fungal medicines and chemical teachers, they have so many avenues of approach to healing. My favorite, and the one I'm a big proponent of, are huge doses or powerful medicines like San Pedro and ayahuasca, or large amounts of mushrooms, DMT, these ones, and then having a transformative body dissolving, ego dissolving experience, and then integrating that with and doing that under the supervision of someone who's been doing this for a very long time, of course, and then integrating it with a coach for an indefinite period of time every week. An integration coach being basically a psychedelic therapist, someone who's taken medicine themselves, who knows how to speak the language of the medicine and can help you to unpack things that you've seen when you were going through these transformative experiences. The reason I say that as a little bit disclaimer is that what we do on the hikes is a microdose. It's some people have a higher tolerance and they know their limit and they take a couple more of the capsules, but nobody on the hikes is having, I mean, it is very transformative in and of itself, but it's not spiritual leaving the body experiences. You're very much still present. So what I try to go for with the capsules and the medicine that I personally make is a sub-perceptual dose of psilocybin, San Pedro cactus, cordyceps, lion's mane. Right now we're using turmeric, black pepper, dried maple syrup powder, and dried coconut milk powder to coat the stomach, and spirulina. So that's what's in the capsules that I provide. And I make them all myself. I grow most of the things myself. My partner and I sing to the medicine. We sage the medicine. When we're encapsulating the medicine, we dance and love on each other and put good energy into it. We don't ever handle the medicine when we're in bad moods or we're not feeling like ourselves. And so with all of those protocols in play, you know, I've only seen positive outcomes from these things. And I've given different blends too of nootropics and, you know, heavy mushroom blends, meaning like maitake, shiitake, lion's mane, cordyceps, reishi, chaga, you know, a combination of different medicinal and therapeutic mushrooms. And I try to listen to the members and then feed off what they're telling me their experiences are and then tailor it to their needs. And the results have been very profound. But as I said, what I provide is very good for pain. It's very good for anxiety. It's very good for an overall sense of well-being if you're trying to achieve that. But the higher doses are where the healing and the integration are where the healing of trauma and deep scarred issues really happens.
Absolutely. And it's essential that you mentioned the teacher and the guide.
Yes.
Because
spending
my undiagnosed 20s in San Francisco macro dosing didn't lead to a very quick recovery. It was a very long journey to understanding those lessons. So a guide can really help that.
Right. And we work with different ones. You know, we have some that are very nurturing and very, will very much take care of you in the ways you need it when you're undergoing things. And then I have, you know, native teachers and medicine men who we work with here on the reservations who are very much more brutal in the nature of their healing and beautiful and unbelievably, you know, absolute rebirth in every way. So yeah, it really is, you know, different. It depends on what you're trying to go in for, which is what Veterans Walk and Talk is morphing into in a lot of ways, is this community of people who kind of gather, listen to one another, and say, hey, maybe this avenue of this would work for you. I think that sounds like something that would work for you. Or maybe, you know, you need this brutal treatment. That brutal treatment's going to be good for you. You go down that road. So that's very much what we're doing at this point.
Yeah, it's sort of turned into like a hive mind for healing.
I like that.
Yeah.
We call it guerrilla wellness. Guerrilla wellness is wellness at any cost.
Yep.
Yeah.
What informs your herbal and fungal knowledge? Is it reading? Do you have an herbal teacher? Is it intuition?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Definitely intuition is what kind of started me on the path. I in no way recommend that people journey if they're not prepared, journey if they're not ready to, but I can't sit here and tell you that I have never done those things. I have tried almost every heavy plant and fungus medicine that is, and chemical teacher out there that I can think of outside of Ibogaine. And I've done many of them under the guidance and supervision of professionals, and I've done many of them alone in this room, laying on the floor and just going through these experiences. The reason I'm personally Colin Wells, everything else to the side, and someone who has come to a place where I've been so low. I've done so many things. I've tried so many different things that I'm comfortable and confident in my now like super strong ability to pull myself back from the screaming abyss. Not everybody is able to do that. I myself struggle with it often, so it's not something I would recommend. But that being said, I have deep knowledge, firsthand knowledge of, you know, all these things. I've been there, I've seen it, and I know what they do on the highest levels. I know what they do combined with each other because I just have to know these things. So that's very intuitively driven. And then, yes, books, Carlos Castaneda, Merlin Sheldrake, recently Brian Murarescu with The Immortality Key, Ram Dass, Terence McKenna. You know, these people have really shaped my way of thinking into, like, I try not to follow any one way. I just kind of follow the ways that speak to me and pull from here and pull from there. And herbal knowledge, very much influenced by self-research books, and then talking to people, and being fortunate enough to have a community of people who trust me to a point where they will try things that I give them without much question and give me feedback for it. So yeah, it's an honor. Yeah, it truly is. And, you know, to that note, I'm actively seeking and working with universities and medical professionals who are going to hopefully start coming into the fold of Veterans Walk and Talk, and taking our qualitative and quantitative data down in order to further studies in these medicines.
That's great big news.
Yeah, that's something we're working on.
Are there any just great, and you can keep this as anonymous as it needs to be, but any great positive interactions or results from these hikes and this community that, I mean, aside from your own story, which is one, that you wanted to share?
I have seen people, and I wouldn't be comfortable using their names without their consent. Absolutely. But I have seen people come to Veterans Walk and Talk, living out of their cars, losing children, abusing hard drugs, and not knowing what to expect, and then slowly, after showing up hike after hike after hike, coming to places now where when you see them, you can't even picture that same person. It seems like a different dimension. They are grounded in a household with a family, and shining radiant light. And these are the regulars that come hike with us. These are the people that have been hiking with me for 3-4 years. And business, just a lot of businesses and connections and legislators and activists and people have come into the fold of Veterans Walk and Talk and come out doing just the most profound and amazing work for their communities. But yeah, that's we used to have retreats, multi-day retreats, where I would see veterans show up and come and camp with us, and they'd start the retreat on feeling one way and leave it just completely another way. I've seen marriages. A lot of guys come with their spouses, come and hike with us, who they maybe are having trouble implementing plant medicines into their everyday life, given the stigma around it and things like that. And you see spouses come, and male and female, all walks of life, all human being, all genders, everything, come to the hikes and witness firsthand the positivity this impact is having. I bring my kids to the hikes. Other people bring their kids to the hikes. It's a family atmosphere. It's about healing and wellness, not about like clamming up and just getting high. And so they see that and they realize the potential of these things, and that then in turn the stigma is broken for the person that was kind of anchoring down the person who was seeing the benefit of these things, and they both of them start to shine from it. So yeah, there's no shortage of good testimony and anecdotal positive stories that have come to fruition through Veterans Walk and Talk. It's pretty amazing and powerful to see.
It reminds me of seeing someone who's on 15 prescription meds walk into the dispensary and working with them for a year and seeing the light come back in their eyes. That's what that reminds me of.
There you go. Very similar. That's a good point too. A lot of people get off pharmaceuticals using cannabis and these other things. That's a big one.
Yeah. So you've launched a lot of new cities in the last week, but can you list off where people can find walks and hikes currently?
Yeah. Everything to be found all over the country is in one place at veteranswalkandtalk.com. You can go there, sign up for membership, and then choose from a list of cities where we're going to be having hikes. We're continuing hikes in Oahu, Hawaii, and Chicago. We have the Bay Area. We have 2 chapters going there. So there's hikes going on all the time there. There's Sacramento, there's Pomona Valley in California. These are all California. There's Ojai, California, that's starting up in the next month. We'll be up in the Pacific Northwest here, in Florida, probably pretty soon, Albuquerque, New Mexico, St. Louis, Missouri, New Rochelle, New York. Let's see.
Dallas. I just have a
Dallas,
friend there.
Texas.
It's a personal
Thank
reason
you.
why I know that.
Yes. Thank you. That's a big deal for us because it's Texas, and we're talking about mushrooms and things like that. So veterans have a unique ability to cross party lines in legislation and to speak on behalf of all people. And so, we're trying to make this known in the places where it's not known, and be a force for these things. But yeah, veteranswalkandtalk.com is the portal that we're ever expanding, that you can get involved with what we do, and you can donate there too. We're actively fundraising.
Awesome. And if you're looking to start an arm or a chapter, that's also where you would head?
Yes, you can email me there, and on my Instagram at Veterans Walk and Talk, I post on when we're having Zoom conferences. We're actually having one tonight after I'm done speaking with you for leadership, and that's where I kind of interview people and start to get to know people and see if they're a right fit for leadership. And soon, my family and I plans on traveling the country and going to all these cities ourselves and hiking with the local people, and then getting it further empowered to do the work we've been doing so efficiently here in San Diego.
Well, if you ever go all the way up the 5 to almost Canada, that's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Happy to hike together.
Yeah, we should have a Pacific Northwest chapter soon. And actually, my family is from Spokane and Seattle and Tacoma area.
Oh, cool.
That's
I'm
where
in Bellingham.
yeah, Bellingham. And I was stationed at Fort Lewis.
Okay.
So Washington's in my blood.
It is a great place to live. You have the right hair color for it. There's a lot of gingers up here.
That's true.
My husband is also.
Oh, there you go.
I have a question that's dear to my heart as somebody who wants to help people. How can the average U.S. citizen better support our veterans as they come home, as they leave on duty? Do you have any ways that people can be more supportive of our veterans?
I echo this sentiment from a good friend of mine named Ryan Miller, who said this so poignantly a while ago, and I say it often because it really hit home for me. And it is that the best way to help veterans is to stop creating more veterans. So until we put a stick in the wheel of the military industrial complex and stop sending our best and brightest to places where they come back, dim and a shadow, we're going to continue to have a mental health problem, especially in the armed services and beyond. That being said, I believe psychedelic research and destigmatizing traditional medicines through the eyes of natives and indigenous peoples is something that I would highly recommend anyone take a long look at their preconceived notions of what it means to be a healed individual in this country. There is no one way to heal someone from the traumas of war or the traumas of military sexual assault or the traumas of simply being a human being that had to develop an ego at one point. There's no one way to heal from that. There's your way and there's our way. So I would hope, coming from someone who served as an infantryman and who represents nearly 500 members of Veterans Walk and Talk, and can say wholeheartedly that if we could be more open and honest about our healing choices and our wellness journeys, we would be much more adept at healing ourselves and in turn healing our communities. So I hope, that's what I would say. That's
pretty profound. Even a little land back in there. I like it.
Thank you.
Well, that is what I wanted to talk to you about, Colin. I'm so thankful that you spent some time with me today. And for everyone listening and watching, I'm Cara Wietstock, culture editor at Ganjapreneur. And if you're looking for new episodes of The Fresh Cut, you can find them on our YouTube channel. If you want to keep up to date with when they're coming out, you can follow us on our social media platforms and follow Colin at, would you like to plug any Instagram or Facebook?
Yeah, sure. At Veterans Walk and Talk, at Veterans Walk and Talk SD, at Veterans Walk and Talk SAC, at Veterans Walk and Talk Bay Area. veteranswalkandtalk.com. Go there. You can get tapped into all these places.
Awesome. Yeah, I am happy to meet you, and thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you, Cara.